Perfect. So thank you for making time for me today. I really appreciate it. I'm talking to Susan Thompson, who is the principal archaeologist at the Hutton site here in Invergowrie. And I just wanted to ask you a few questions about the site and the things you found. So I'll start with my first question. What is the nature of the archaeological remains that were discovered at the International Barley Hub site?
We actually found an Iron Age settlement. When we first went in, we were doing archaeological trial trenching to try and investigate whether or not there was any archaeology on the site. There was some suggestion that there could be from crop marks, but we really didn't understand what there was, if anything, because those crop marks were a result of area photography taken in the 1990s, I think. But in that time, you could have lost any archaeology that was there from ploughing, or just might not have been much there that survived. So in most of the trenches, we didn't find an awful lot. That was fine. But in that one corner, just exactly where the farm hub was going to be in the buildings, we found a really exciting Iron Age settlement. And so we had over 11 main structures, but we think now we had other structures that were made of wood, so post holes. Our 11 structures were made with, they were scooped into the ground, and they had stone bases and stone walls. And so we think we had round houses, probably, although only one of them had a definite hearth. And that's the thing that we would say it's definitely a domestic structure. We didn't have that. But we had walls, scooped floors, and the other thing about these structures was they weren't all round. So we were calling them roundhouses for ages. We've changed the structure now because they were not all definitely round. And that suggested to us that actually we could have had a later date, so Pictish structures in that area couldn't be sub-round, sub-rectangular, and we thought one of them, in particular structure 2, could have a Pictish date, and actually that's turned out not to be the case, because when we've taken environmental samples, we took over 600 environmental samples during the project. That has led to us getting quite a lot of charred plant remains, and we've had some of that radiocarbon dated, and it's all come back as Iron Age, not Pictish.
Wow. So I suppose talking of things that were and weren't found at the site, is there any evidence of barley or other grains being consumed or processed that you may have found?
There is. We've had quite a lot of barley. So from our 600 plus samples, we've had over 15,000 charred plant remains. And we've had quite a lot of barley, predominantly barley grains. I was desperate during the excavations that we would get barley. We've done it. We've got barley. It looks like it's citral barley, primarily. But we've also got some wheat, some emmer wheat, and some oats. So it looks like it's being grown on site. We've got, we have had some chaff, which suggests the processing there as well. So yeah, that's really exciting. We also had quite a lot of stones that we recovered. So again, it's suggesting that the processing on site for domestic use. And all of these charred plant remains looks like they've been there as a result of the domestic processing of the grain on site. It's interesting that actually our best structure, which was structure 4, and we think that one is a roundhouse and it's got half and internal post holes. We didn't get any querns from that, but we had one that was deliberately placed outside that structure, and it was a small pit that was a complete quern was buried in that. So that's obviously there's some significance to that. The other querns we had were very worn or broken, and they may have been just used as building stones. They could still be significant, but whatever, they were there and had been used. So we had rotary querns, but also saddle querns, which could be a bit earlier. So yeah, lots of barley.
And I suppose a follow-on question for that, how important would have barley been to the people that inhabited the site where the new IBH is built?
We think very important is the short answer. So it's probably the primary carbohydrate source. So they wouldn't only have been growing that or using that. I think that would have been part of a much broader sort of cultural life. But they would have also had they would have had animals. We didn't get very much animal bone, but there was some. It just hasn't survived in the soil there. So there was parts of the animal bones that eat. But they would have fished and hunted and also made use of all the wild sources as well. But in terms of grapes, barley was predominant. And so I think it would have been very, very significant.
Well, thank you for taking the time to speak to me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for talking about it.